What's up, guys? It's been a while since I've done a Trickster Rogue video guide, but today's the day, so let's roll into it. I think I was a little too excited in that little intro there, but that's okay. Basically, we're just gonna take a beginner's look over the Trickster Rogue to hopefully help you understand a little bit about what you're doing, what you're looking for, and what you're wanting to do. So I guess just to start off, we have our ability scores, our stats, our gear, our artifacts, primary and secondary. We have our powers, our boons, our companions, and our mounts. More or less, I'm just going to go over each of these sections just so you understand what you're doing, and then you can either take my suggestions or you can go off and do your own thing if that's what you want to do. So first things first is we're going to start off with ability scores. To view your ability scores, just hit View Ability Score History. So click that, and you'll see that I have a lot of points put into strength and a lot of points put into dexterity. Basically, how ability scores work is you have 6 basic ability scores. You have strength, constitution, dexterity, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma. Now, at level 30 and level 60, you get +1 points to all 6 of these ability scores. But for level 10, 20, 40, 50, 70, and 80, you get +1, or technically +2, and you can add +1 to any of the 6 stats that you like every 10 levels. Now, the reason I suggest or recommend strength and charisma is because strength gives a physical damage boost and dexterity gives critical severity. Both of these help you deal the most amount of damage possible, and since Trickster Rogues are primarily a DPS class, I presume that's kind of what you want to do. Now, alternatively, some people go with Constitution because it adds hit points and action point gain. Those are good too, but I mean, you're a DPS class, so you might as well do, you know, all or nothing, right? Alternatively, some people also like to use charisma, especially early on because of the companion influence. However, companion influence is being removed from the game, and probably at some point when you're watching this in the future, it'll already be removed from the game. So take it as you will, but personally, I don't think you should try and depend on charisma just because that's only going to be a temporary fix for you, unfortunately. So moving on. So next up, we have our stats. To start off, we have our total item level, and item level is supposed to reflect or indicate how strong or powerful your character is. Unfortunately, it's not very balanced in the game right now, but the devs are working to fix that. So for now, if you see something as higher item level, don't just presume it's better, try and do your research. When it comes to ratings, power is pretty self-explanatory. It makes you more powerful, obviously. It's not going to make you weaker. I don't think so anyways. The main stats you want to look at is armor pen. The main stats you want to look at are armor penetration, critical strike, and accuracy. Basically, these 3 stats are going to be your main offensive stats to look at when you're a new player to the game. Obviously, people are going to mention combat advantage. You definitely want to cap that, but that's more towards endgame, so I wouldn't worry about it too much. The reason I recommend armor pen, critical strike, and accuracy first is because there's something in the game called opposing roles. Your enemies, likewise to you, have the same kind of stats. They'll have a lot of defense, critical avoidance, and deflection. To get past those, you're going to want armor penetration, critical strike, and accuracy. Armor pen negates defense, critical strike negates critical avoidance, and accuracy negates deflection. And of course, combat advantage negates awareness as well. But again, as a new player, you don't really need to worry about it. Focus on those 3. You want to get those 3 stats up to at least 68,000. The higher, the better. As you progress through harder content, the caps do go up to a maximum of 90,000 as of right now. I would presume in future content that's going to be up to 95,000, but for now, 90,000. We're going to stick with it. We're going to roll with it. So there's that. If you continue scrolling down, you're going to see utilities. AP is just your action points you use to cast your daily powers. We're going to talk about that more in the daily powers section. or not just daily powers, but your overall powers. Recharge speed reduces the cooldown speed of your encounter powers, which again, we're going to talk about in our power section. Companion influence is being removed from the game, as I said earlier, so I wouldn't worry too much about this. Don't depend on this, because that's going to hurt you down the road. Movement speed increases the speed at which your character runs. This does not influence mount speed. There's often a lot of confusion around that. Incoming healing is good to have. I know I have it in the minus. Don't use me as a good quote on this, but income healing is good because you'll get more healing from the healers, and the healers can help you stay alive easier. This is why healers hate me too. Then we have critical severity, and critical severity just makes your critical hits stronger, and critical hits are basically just more powerful normal hits, and crit caps at a total of 50% chance. So there's a 50-50 chance of having a more powerful attack from your attacks. Does that make sense? If it doesn't, well, watch again. I don't know. I'm kind of going fast, I know, but I don't want to waste time. Come on, time is of the essence. Next, we got gear. Gear is kind of sorted into like 5 categories. You have your head, armor, arms, and feet. Generally, these are always lumped together in vendors, in armor kits, and, you know, even dungeon chests. Then we have our main hand and our half hand. These are our weapons. They usually come in a set, so you always, at least at level 80, you want to have matching weapons. Next would be our neck and waist. That's because these come in an artifact set, so you want to have a matching neck and waist as well. Then we have our right and left rings. Generally, these do also kind of get lumped in with the head, armor, arms, and feet, but in terms of actual armor kits, necks, waists, rings, they all get lumped together too, so it's kind of a weird situation there, but rings fit in both categories, kind of. Then the last category is, of course, the shirt and the trousers. So those are kind of the main categories. When it comes to collecting armor, such as the rings, the head, armor, arms, and feet, generally you'll want to start in Undermountain. Undermountain will give you a full set of armor and companion gear, and actually some pretty nice artifacts to start with. And those should carry you in through to level 80. Again, Undermountain start at level 70. I think I did mention that before. But yeah, once you finish Undermountain and you reach level 80, you'll want to start running Master Expeditions and start Stardock for Warden Expeditions. And there's FEs, but I can't remember what the F stands for. Yeah, I can't remember. So WEs, FEs, and MEs, all expeditions. And this will help you drop gear, different companion gear as well, which is going to be important. I'll explain that later on. Rings, etc. That will then lead you towards Valenhas, which if you do a lot of bell runs, a lot of people still do them. You then get currency that you can exchange with Juma. Juma will then give you even better armor, and that will then help carry you into Avernus. Avernus is good to unlock because when you unlock it, the first thing you do is you get your war machine, and then you drive your war machine around the wastelands, kill some mains, not infected mains, but regular mains. And with those mains, they drop treasure maps. You hunt the treasure maps, and there's some guides for that. I'll leave that in the description. And yeah, you get your Legion Guard weapons from there. And those Legion Guard weapons, again, they are pretty much next to best in slot, more or less. They're pretty close. They're pretty up there. So it's a really good set of weapons to have, and they're definitely weapons to invest in. And you don't really need to be strong in fighting the content in order to farm them. So it's a really great starter weapon for you to work towards. Now, with that said, again, shirts and pants kind of come along with the armor. Probably the best way to get shirt and pants aside from your expeditions would probably be using the seals that you get in Valenhas. And I think you also get them in Avernus. And your random queues and stuff. If you hit K, random queues, run these every day. Great Astral Diamonds. You will also get some seals with them. And you can use those seals to buy yourself a nice pair of shirts and trousers. That would be my suggestion. And the rest, you're just gonna have to learn. I won't leave you hanging that bad, but that would be the best starting point recommendation that I could have for a new player anyways. When it comes to artifacts, I would not look at what I'm using right now, so we'll fix that. Okay, that's better. I had the journals before, but journals are stupidly expensive and not overly obtainable anymore, so I wouldn't recommend them at all to a new player. For a new player, probably you'll want to stick with at least 1 or 2 of the default artifacts you got from Undermountain for a little while, just because I know one of them grants close to 2k power, and the other one is another offensive stat. And off the bat, you're probably not going to upgrade a regular artifact up high enough to like beat that. So I would actually recommend sticking with those 2 for a little bit. Primary artifact, you should definitely get a Staff of Flowers. Gives you a great buff, your allies a great buff, and a ton of people use it, not to mention it offers 3k power, which at endgame you're gonna want anyways. So I would definitely recommend it, and it's affordable right now. The next one I would probably recommend is the Trobriand's Ring. Again, it's actually not that expensive, at least on PC, last time I checked. And again, 3k power. Your secondary artifacts you really only want for one of 2 reasons. 1, for the stats. So usually you want to go with something that gives 3k power, because it does take a while to upgrade these, and you don't want to waste your resources, right? So that's reason 1. And reason 2 would be to complete an artifact set with your waist and neck. Yes, they come in a set of 3, so you get your neck, your waist, and your artifact. Those 3 need to match if you want to get a bonus. So personally, I'd recommend the Dark Remnant set. And again, I don't think it's that expensive. It's not that cheap, but if you're even farming 50 to 70k Astral Diamonds a day from your random queues, you'll get this stuff in no time, so don't worry about it. Last one I would probably recommend is Arcturia's Music Box, or basically any up-to-date artifact. That could be the Wyvern coated knives. Good lord. What else is there? There's other artifacts. Take a look for yourself and try to get one that's more current and up to date. In other words, one that's giving... Okay, yeah. So basically, any artifact that gives 2 item level at common level or 60 item level at blue, buy those. Don't buy the lesser ones, because there's like 2 categories of artifacts, and I know that can be really confusing. So just a tip, but see, super cheap. So anyways, that would be my recommendation. Like I said, Dark Remnant set, Arcturia's Music Box, Trobriand's Ring, Staff of Flowers, Legion Guard weapons that I do not have currently equipped because I moved on from those, but that's what you'll want. And yep, so let's move on. Next, we've got powers. We have our at-wills, our encounters, our dailies, and our class features, and our feats. Just to sum it up, at-wills, basically they are attacks that you can use continuously and they don't have a cooldown period. Encounters are more powerful attacks, but they do have a cooldown period, so you do need to be a little more mindful of your rotations when using them, because then you'll have to wait 15 to 20 plus seconds before you can use them again. When it comes to daily powers, you have to recharge your action points, which your action points are down here, and basically is once it's at full charge, so 1000 points, then you can use a daily power. When it comes to class features, these are extra, just little buffs. They're not actually powers, but they just help either boost like your action points or your run speed or your stealth or combat advantage, whatever it may be. So that is, you know, just like little combat buffs. And feats are basically the same. They're just little buffs that help you, or they change or adjust the way a power or a mechanic performs. And yeah. So getting to know the lingo of powers a little bit. If we take Assassinate, for example, you'll see it says range, melee, which means it's up close, where however, if we look at a different power such as Death Strike, you'll see it says range 60 feet. Basically, this is the cast distance between you and your target, and you need to be within that distance. Otherwise, you're going to strike at air, or you're not going to strike at all. When we look at cast, that is the amount of time it takes to actually animate the casting of that power. So in this case, Death Strike takes 0.9 seconds, but if we look at Smoke Bomb, it takes 0.5 seconds. Generally, they're pretty fast. Cooldown just means the time it takes for your power to recharge so you can use it again. Magnitude offers, or not offers, but suggests the strength or the potency of your attack. So the higher the magnitude, the higher that encounter power's damage is. That makes sense. Apply effect means it adds an added effect. In this case, Smoke Bomb adds daze, whereas, where's another one that adds? Death Strike adds a slow effect. Duration means that if there's effect, that is how long that effect lasts for. In this case, Death Strike's effect would last 5 seconds, and Smoke Bomb's daze would last for 6 seconds. Stealthed on your encounter powers, you're not going to see them on your dailies or your at-wills, but stealthed, basically, when you cast a power from stealth, because yes, Trickster Rogues can go invisible, surprise, but basically you go stealthed and they add extra bonuses to your powers, so extra effects. This can be anything from combat advantage to extra damage, added critical severity in the case of Lashing Blade, high recommendation, and yeah, so that's something to consider too when choosing your encounter powers. Now that we've talked about our powers, yeah, I guess we can just talk about my recommendations. So personally for at-wills, I would just skip over Sly Flourish. It sucks. If you're really looking for an at-will, what? Okay, so moving on to actual power recommendations. Personally, I would just recommend skipping over Sly Flourish. It's not really worth it. It does have a slightly faster casting time, but Cloud of Steel deals the same damage. It's still relatively fast, and it's ranged, so if you're looking for a ranged attack, considering Trickster Rogues are almost purely melee, that's something to consider. Personally, I would still recommend Duelist Flurry, definitely, whether you're in easy content or harder content. Deals amazing damage, quick cast times, and it has 3 stages, and the last stage is like really powerful. And if you're doing harder content, then I would recommend Gloaming Cut, just because it deals an incredible amount of damage. So you kind of get what you slot. So Gloaming Cut for harder content, Cloud of Steel for easier content, and just ignore Sly Flourish. Duelist Flurry is a must-have. When we look at encounter powers, you have to consider 2 types of battles. There is single target, which means you're only against one enemy, and then there's multi-target, or AoE, where you're against multiple targets. So if we're looking at a setup for single target, I would recommend Lashing Blade, because it has high magnitude, and the stealth bonus is it doesn't compete. So whenever you cast a power from stealth, it should always be Lashing Blade. Additionally, I usually recommend Wicked Reminder. Again, really high magnitude, and the cooldown isn't so bad. Same with Lashing Blade, quick cooldown. And last but not least is Assassinate, because it has the highest magnitude and a medium cooldown compared to the other 2, which is still very quick. All 3 are melee, but that's okay. If your target is moving around a lot and won't stay still, I would then switch Wicked Reminder for Death Strike, because Death Strike has pretty good magnitude as well, good cooldown, and it teleports you in a very good range for Trickster Rogue to your target. So that's the only time I would switch that for single target. If you're looking for powers for an area of effect attack, meaning you're wanting to hit multiple targets, I would recommend Blade Flurry. It's AoE, and the good thing is you can actually cast it twice in a row. If the first time you cast it from stealth, and then the stealth bonus, whatever, it basically makes the power just skip the whole cooldown and then you can use it a second time. So it's really useful. Path of Blade is an area effect, damage over time effect, and it actually follows you where you're going. So definitely recommend that. And then last would probably be Smoke Bomb, just because it adds a daze. It lasts, again, it's an area of effect, damage over time. This is really good for solo content. Alternatively, if mobs are dying quick and you don't need Smoke Bomb, you can switch it out for Assassinate, and the bigger enemy amongst the mobs, you can just attack it, kill it, and it dies. When it comes to daily powers, Shocking Execution is the must-have. It has the highest magnitude damage, and overall it's just the best daily out of all of them. You should try and reserve your daily attacks for single targets or big bosses only, just because it's a real waste to use them on mobs. They do take a while to recharge, and unfortunately mobs have such low HP that the amount of damage a daily would do would be really redundant to use it on like a weak enemy. Alternatively, I usually recommend people to slot in Bloodbath. If you're doing combat and you're about to die, whether you're in a mob or in a boss fight, Bloodbath can grant you an extra few seconds to hopefully either get healed or wait till you can use a health stone or whatever the situation may be. But Bloodbath can definitely save the day from a near-death experience. So usually what I recommend. For class features, I recommend Tactics, increases your action point gain, and you want action points. They're the strongest attack powers that you have. The quicker you can get them up, the better. Lastly, I always recommend Oppressive Darkness. Even if you haven't increased your combat advantage yet, every time you stealth, you do gain combat advantage. And whenever you have a blue circle around your character, that means you have combat advantage as well, which is more often than you think. So whenever you do have combat advantage, you deal an additional 20 magnitude damage to the target, which is really great. So roll with it. Feats, I don't really think I need to explain it. I think it's common sense. You can see what I have here. If I have it here, it's because I feel it's more superior to the opposing feat in the column. The only two where you could really go back and forth is either Skullcracker or Duelist Expertise. There's a huge debate on which one's better. Personally, I prefer Duelist Expertise. Some people prefer Skullcracker. On the last one as well, you could either go with Execution or Shadow's Flurry. Both of them equally suck, so choose whatever one makes you feel happiest at the end of the day. 420. Don't hold me to that. Moving on. Boons, I think are pretty self-explanatory. Up your power, up your hit points. The rest of these are just basically either useless stats or stats that you will easily be able to cap anyways. Your last points I would probably put into, personally I have some into movement speed because I like movement speed, but I would probably more so recommend the power and the mastery boons, which are here, and they just increase your outgoing damage versus certain enemies. So in this case, cultists, fiends, dinosaurs, and the undead. So considering like it doesn't cover all the types of enemies in the game, but it's close enough. I have some points in Companion Influence, yes, but as I said already twice, Companion Influence is being removed from the game, so probably I'm going to be taking points out of that when that happens. Don't depend on Companion Influence. Now, I think it's once you reach 30 points, then you can put points into your tier 5, and you can only choose 2 boons. So personally I went with Critical Severity and Action Point Gain, but you could alternatively go with Recharge Speed if that's more up your alley. Depends how you want to play. The last boon I would probably recommend Bloodlust, just because of the rank 2 where you do an additional attack equal to 120% of your weapon damage plus 10% per rank, and that's the chance on an encounter use, and I just thought it was the best pick, so that's why I went with it. Boons you're going to earn over time as you complete your campaigns, so no, as soon as you hit level 80 you're not going to magically have boon points to spend. You gotta earn them. So just a quick disclaimer on that. Probably should have said that at the beginning, but I didn't, so it's okay. Skill boons, Main ones that I would look at is either the power bonus or the critical severity bonus. For defense, probably hit points or defense, whichever you feel you need more. Or utility, mount speed is great when you're doing regular solo PvE content. When you're in a dungeon, especially a harder dungeon, if you're dying or other people are dying, probably revive sickness is the way to go. The reason I say this is because when you die, basically you lose, I believe it's 10% damage for each stack of revive sickness that you lose, not to mention reduced hit points, reduced stats, reduced whatever it does. So by adding the revive sickness, it basically reduces the effects that you have. So instead of minus 10%, then you only have minus 5%. It halves it basically. So it's really good to have. PvP, let's just skip over that. PvP, let's skip over that. Let's move to companions. Now, when it comes to companions, normally most people would say focus on your bonding runestones. However, recently the devs said, what kind of Canadian am I? Recently the devs said that they're removing bonding runestones. So I don't really want to tell you to invest in that. As well, they are reworking the companion system a little bit, changing how the bolster system works a little bit, if I understood correctly. So I'm gonna say hold off on companions. Save your astral diamonds, focus on other stuff, and hopefully when the changes come around, you'll have some astral diamonds saved up and you'll be able to get what is actually good at that time. So for now, I am going to leave out companions. Just get something cheap to work with for now and roll with it. I do know bondings do take up a majority of your stats, like 70% of your stats once you hit like endgame, but invest at your own discretion. You will be able to trade them for astral diamonds, but still upgrade them at your own discretion. I would say don't go above like rank 12. If you have to use a coal ward to upgrade it, don't upgrade it anymore. That's my advice of the day. So moving on. So the next thing that we have to look at is our mount tab. One of the first things you'll notice is that there are actually two sub tabs under the mount tab, if that makes sense. Firstly, we have our appearance, and this is just your mount transmutes. You can put them in a list view or grid view, whichever you prefer. Next, we have our combat powers. I have quite a few of these because I'm a hardcore mount collector, but generally you need to, buy a mount before you'll get one of these. So, yeah. One of the next one actually is the equip power, and there's all different ones, and these are basically just extra stats that add to yours, and I'll explain those in a bit. Last one is just speed. You don't really need to worry about this. Speed was kind of important back in the day, but they've since changed this so that everyone has the same mount speed. Really great change, great for everyone, especially new players. So yeah, you don't need to worry about that. Then at the bottom we have our mount bolster, and this is where the stable comes in actually, because our mount bolster is based on the quality of your mounts. So you'll see I have all mythic ones or teal colored mounts in here, and if we just right click on it, you'll see all the different qualities of your mounts. And basically you can upgrade mounts from either common to uncommon, uncommon to rare, rare to epic, epic to legendary, legendary to mythic. And every time you upgrade them, you get more of a bolster gain. So mythic gives 10% bolster, legendary gives 5% bolster, and I believe epic gives 3% bolster. Don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's how it works. So basically, the more you upgrade your mounts, the higher your bolster will be, and increasing your bolster actually will influence the potency or the strength of your equip and combat powers, funny enough. And I'm not sure why I haven't on that. Where's the bats? That's there we go. So yeah, now you're probably wondering where these equip powers come from. They do come from the mounts, and as you obviously increase your mounts, you increase your bolster, and you also increase the stats that your mounts give you. So with that said, we go back to the stables. You'll notice we have a lot of little things on here, and these are insignias. They come in all different types, but generally, generally, if you get the right setup, you get insignia bonuses. But guys, insignia bonuses are kind of weak. They kind of suck. So personally, I wouldn't stress over them. The only three that I really try to have at all times is Wanderer's Fortune, because it gives really great refinement points. So especially as a new player, if you are needing to upgrade things, this would be one you'll probably want to have because it gives a ton of refinement. It's perfect. The next one that most people use is Artificer's Persuasion, and basically whenever you use an artifact, in this case your primary artifact, it reduces your cooldowns of your encounter powers by 2 seconds, I believe. Yes, 2 seconds. So usually people really like to use this. As well, Gladiator's Goal, however you pronounce it. Basically, when your stamina is at max, so 100% or 75% or higher, you move faster by 10%. So you gain 10% run speed. So that's pretty cool. I don't know about you, but being able to run around faster is a huge advantage to me. The other two, I just happen to have those, but mainly focus on insignias for the stats. You can see brutalities give power, masteries are giving accuracy, aggression gives armor penetration, prosperity gives hit points, and so forth. So you can use insignias to help cap your stats, help boost your power, or whatever it may be. Now, a recent addition to the mount system has been collars, and basically you can only have one type of collar, so one supportive, one wayfaring, one practical, one sturdy, and one unified. Now, as a new player, I really wouldn't worry about these. They're easy item level for a weak bonus. If you're a new player and you're still working towards upgrading other things, I would highly suggest putting your astral diamonds into something other than collars. Collars aren't giving you a huge boost, and there's no reason you need to worry about, getting a really nice collar or upgrading it or anything so early on. The boosts are generally small compared to like the astral diamonds you pay for them. So again, don't really worry about the collars. You're not going to have them off the bat anyways. I'm not sure if the tutorials have been updated to include just a common rank collar that you can slot just so you learn about them. I'm not sure. I haven't really delved into that, but it's possible. So anyways, more or less, yeah, that's basically how mounts work. As for mount suggestions, basically go for anything that gives power or even hit points, but I would still recommend anything with power. There are some stats that give like power and something or power and HP or whatever it is, but I would just try and focus on something with power. There's quite a few mounts that do, and I can't actually remember what the website is, but there's a website with a full list of mounts and what stats they give. So I'll try and link that in the description as well, so you can refer to that and choose a mount that will work for you. Additionally, I figure I should mention this. There is combined rating. Combined rating basically just adds that magic number to all your ratings. So your offensive and defensive ratings, you magically gain that number to all of them. So that's really all it refers to. Because I know a lot of people ask that early on. Oh, what's combined rating? I don't see it on my stats. What does it do? How do I know it's working? All those questions. I'm used to it. It's okay. So with that said, in case you didn't notice, I am actually re-recording this section of the video a couple days after I recorded the rest of it, just because I realized that I didn't really do a good job at explaining the mount system and how it works. And I went into a lot of unimportant information, and I didn't even give any suggestions or tips on what mounts to look for. So, yeah. I guess while I'm at it, I should mention that if you're looking for an endgame legendary mount, the Bat Swarm combat power is best in slot. So, if you're really pushing to get like a really nice legendary, I would say go with Bat Swarm, or go with a Black Ice Warhorse, a Crystalline Warhorse, or the Arcane Whirlwind, because both of them are legendary and they give straight up power. So that would be my suggestion. Speaking of suggestions, last but not least, I also noticed when I was editing the video that, surprise, surprise, oh, I don't have any enchantments in here. Oh, darn. Okay. Well, I also noticed that I didn't go over my enchantments. And what I suggest for enchantments, personally, in your utilities, I would say add in different refinement enchantments. Things like the Fey Blessing, the Quartermasters, the Dragon Hordes, things like that. And that will help you get more than enough refinement points, that like everything you need to upgrade everything you want, basically. And your offenses, I would go with a Radiant enchantment personally, just because you really want to upgrade that power and it's going to benefit you more in the long run. So it's better to just start upgrading those and working on those now, and, you know, building them up as you also build your character up. Power is the best way to go. Now, this could be unpopular opinion, but I really enjoy Brutals in my defensive slots. They give hit points and defense, and especially as you're working towards endgame, which if you're playing Neverwinter, you gotta be obviously wanting to progress through, right? It only makes sense. So I would say go with your hit points and go with the defense, like for your defense slots. So go with Brutals. That's what I really like and prefer anyways. So that would be my suggestion. When it comes to a armor enchantment, getting a Bark Shield could be really useful. Negation isn't half bad either, and Soul Forge can be really good. Basically, Bark Shield just absorbs damage. Negation, you basically gain more defense, I guess you say, damage resistance as you get hit. So it's not really going to protect you from the first hit with negation. And Soul Forge revives you when you die. Note though, you will still get Revive Sickness, so take it as you will, but if no one's there to revive you, it can be a life or death kind of lifesaver without using a life scroll, so that's really good. As for a weapon enchantment, you can use Bilethorn. Most of the weapon enchantments are honestly the same, so if you're new and you're poor and you don't have a lot of Astral Diamonds, go for something cheap. Vorpal's good, Bilethorn is good. Pretty much any of them are good, especially if you're just starting off, but I would definitely work towards either a Vorpal or a Bilethorn. Some people really like the Thunder enchantments. Not Thunder, Lightning enchantments. I personally haven't really tested it out or delved into it, but some people really like them, so you could even check that out if, you know, you like testing your own stuff and using Advanced Combat Tracker or any of that. If you've, you know, experimented with that in other MMOs before and you already know what you're doing with it, you can definitely check that out in Neverwinter too. Whatever feels best to you. So anyways, I think that pretty much concludes everything I'm wanting to mention and share here. So thanks for watching. Ciao for now. Have a good one, and don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing helps. So yeah, take care.